All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start with, this is the October 18th, 2023 Commission on Ethics meeting. At this time, I'd like to call roll. Chair Wallen here, Vice Chair Towler.
Present.
Commissioner Dufferin.
Here.
Commissioner Grunwald.
Here.
Commissioner Lowry. Here. Commissioner Moran.
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Yin.
Here.
Right. For staff, Commission Counsel Jensen.
Here.
Executive Director Armstrong.
Here.
Associate Counsel Bassett. You here? Oh, she's on mute.
Here.
Senior Legal Researcher Pat. Here. Investigator Terry.
Here.
And Executive Assistant Pedrosa.
Here.
All right, please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, public comment. Executive Director Armstrong, has the commission received any public comment?
The commissioner has not received any public comment, and there's no one here at our physical location in Las Vegas to provide public comment.
And do we have anybody on Zoom?
We have no members of the public on Zoom.
Item 3, approval of the August 23, 2023 commission minutes. Commissioner Moran did not attend the August meeting and may not participate in approval of the minutes. All other commissioners may participate. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? I second. Oh, that was a tie. All right, you'll have to figure out on the recording which one made it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, discussion and approval of commission proclamation honoring Commissioner Brian Dufferin's years of service to the commission. And then we'll stand for pictures, okay?
Let's not, please.
Well, yes, we will. But I have to get my big print here. It's like, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. All right, whereas Brian Dufferin was appointed to the Nevada Commission on Ethics by the governor and has served with great distinction as a valued member from October 2016 to October 2023, including 3 years as the vice chair upon unanimous election by his colleagues. And whereas Brian was raised in Nevada, receiving his Bachelor of Science in Managerial Services and Certificate of Professional Development in Hotel Gaming Management from the University of Nevada, Reno. And whereas a true government servant, Brian first began his estimable state career with the Nevada Gaming Control Board in 1989 and held various positions within the agency before retiring as the chief of the board administrative division in 2016, where his wholehearted dedication to the state of Nevada and its public was evident. And whereas Brian, we're gonna guys, oh, this is me. And whereas Brian served 2 4-year terms on the commission during the transformative period wherein the commission fulfilled its mission to ensure the public's trust in government through increased outreach and education, including statewide training presentations, issuance of detailed confidential advisory opinions, and the development of substantive statutory provisions and procedural regulations to enhance ethical responsibilities of public officers and employees while ensuring fairness and due process of law in commission proceedings. And whereas Brian's leadership, commitment, and passion for proper government accountability promoted the commission's annual priorities in many fiscal, legislative, and judicial forums, and was particularly instrumental in the creation of the commission's guiding principles and brand design development. And whereas Brian's community service endeavors are exemplified by his previous appointments to the State Committee of Catastrophic Leave and the State Bar Northern Nevada Disciplinary Board, as well as his current voluntary service as vice chair of the Carson Tahoe Hospital Regional Healthcare Board of Trustees. And whereas Brian's lasting imprint on the Nevada Commission on Ethics will showcase his immeasurable contributions, unwavering support of staff and colleagues, integrity and professionalism in mediating, diplomacy and leadership, and tenacity for all things Nevada. And therefore, be it resolved that the members and staff of the Nevada Commission on Ethics hereby express their extensive gratitude to Brian for his dedicated service to the state of Nevada and to the Constitution of the United States. Resolved this day, 18th day of October, 2023. Kim Wallen, Chair, State Ethics Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I have a little something for you.
And it comes in a handy carrying case.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Thank you, that's awesome.
And we'll
Thank
take
you for that.
pictures later.
Yeah, let's do that later.
Later.
Later, no. We'll get you. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do the proclamations all, and then we'll do comments from fellow commissioners and staff. That'll work. Next item. Item 5. Discussion and approval of commission proclamation honoring Commissioner Barbara Greenwald's years of service to the commission. Whereas Barbara Greenwald was appointed to the Nevada Commission on Ethics by the Legislative Commission and has served with great distinction as a valued member from October of 2016 to October of 2023. Whereas Barbara was born in South Dakota, receiving her Bachelor of Science from the University of Nevada, Reno, and her Juris Doctorate from the McGeorge School of Law. And whereas in her private capacity, after graduating from law school in 1979, Barbara's legal skills were enhanced at a private law firm for 4 years before she joined the State Industrial Claimants Attorney's Office in 1983, where she represented injured workers. Barbara continued this representation and was appointed the head of the agency just 1 year later in 1984, highlighting her service to this demographic for the next 6 years. In 1980, Barbara opened her own law firm and continued her career focused on representing injured workers, family law, and probate law. Whereas Barbara served 2 4-year terms on the commission during a transformative period wherein the commission fulfilled its mission to ensure the public's trust in government through increased outreach and education, including statewide training presentations, issuance of detailed confidential advisory opinions, and the development of substantive statutory provisions and procedural regulations to enhance ethical responsibilities of public officers and employees while ensuring fairness and due process of law and commission proceedings. And whereas Barbara's tremendous legal acumen, commitment, and passion for proper government accountability promoted the commission's annual priorities in many fiscal, legislative, and judicial forums, and was particularly instrumental in steering litigation and the issuance of thoughtful, well-reasoned opinions. In her service as presiding officer over numerous settlement conferences on behalf of the commission, Barbara consistently demonstrated a professional judicial demeanor, intent on fair and equitable resolutions. And whereas Barbara's lasting imprint on the Nevada Commission on Ethics will showcase her unwavering professionalism, dedication to integrity, and upholding ethics in government, with her most memorable attributes being her compassion, consistency, and mild-mannered collaborative nature, which always recognize the public, Nevada's public officers and employees, and contributions of colleagues and staff. And therefore, be it resolved that the members and staff of the Nevada Commission on Ethics hereby express their extensive gratitude to Barbara for her dedicated service to the state of Nevada and to the Constitution of the United States. Resolved this 18th day of October 2023. Kim Wallen, Chair, State Ethics Commission. Don't thank me. It's all carried. Yes. Right. Next item, item 6. Even though he's not present, is discussion and approval of commission proclamation honoring Commissioner James Oscarson, years of service to the commission. Whereas James Oscarson was appointed to the Nevada Commission on Ethics by the governor and has served with great distinction as a valued member from April 21 to June 23. And whereas a public servant through and through, James was elected to the Nevada State Assembly representing District 36 in 2012, where he honorably served in 3 regular sessions and 4 special sessions of the Nevada State Legislature. Notably, during his tenure as an assemblyman, James was chair of the Assembly Committee for Health and Human Services and Assembly Co-Deputy Minority Floor Leader in 2017. James's dedication to the state of Nevada and his constituents was further apparent in his service on interim committees such as the Committee on High-Level Radioactive Waste, the Committee on Industrial Programs, Committee to consult with the Director, the Legislative Commission Subcommittee to study water, the Legislative Committee on Healthcare, and the Task Force on Alzheimer's Disease. And whereas James served for over 2 years on the Nevada Commission on Ethics during a time of growth, wherein the Ethics Commission fulfilled its mission to ensure the public's trust in government through outreach and education, including statewide training presentations, issuance of detailed opinions and contested cases and advisory matters, and through the development of substantive statutory provisions and procedural regulations to enhance ethical responsibility of public officers, employees, while ensuring fairness and due process. And whereas as Commissioner James' leadership, legislative and budget expertise, public policy expertise, experience, and accountability strengths empowered the commission and were instrumental in steering the commission's strategic budget and policy proposals. James accomplished this work serving on both the legislative and personnel subcommittees. And whereas James demanded the utmost ethical integrity of Nevada's public officers and employees, having served in various public roles throughout his career and appreciating the public's trust in government, free from conflicts of interest, James' tenacity for accountability and impartiality will forever showcase his integrity, with the most memorable personal attributes being his positive outlook, charismatic and approachable personality, and most importantly, his terrific sense of humor. Hear, hear. Therefore, be it resolved that the members and staff of the Nevada Commission on Ethics hereby commend James for his contribution and express their extensive gratitude and respect to James for his dedicated service to the state of Nevada and the Constitution of the United States. Resolved this 18th day of October, 2023, Kim Mullins, Chair of the Nevada Commission on Ethics. Now I will open it up. You have to give James some. Even though he couldn't be here. I'd like to open it up to my fellow commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Yen.
Ron, if I may, former vice chair and former commissioner Dufferin. When I was thinking about your time that you and both Barbara were on the commission when I started. And I realized very quickly that I needed to pay attention to what everybody said, but I especially needed to pay attention when you spoke, because your perspective was always something I hadn't thought of, because I was coming at it from the legal perspective. And you always ensured that we gave a well-rounded consideration and a well-rounded decision. And I always appreciated that, and I will miss your perspective on the commission.
Thank you.
Commissioner Grunwald, I look to you as a mentor because you took me under your wing, I felt, and you encouraged me to give my opinion and gave me like a safe space to give my opinion on this commission, and I won't forget that, and I really appreciate your guidance. And for Commissioner Oscarson, the thing I was going to say to him if he had been here is the amount of levity and professionalism that he has is unmatched, and I hope that he can serve another term on this commission because I think he has more to give.
Agreed.
Commissioner Lowry.
So first, I'd like to thank Carrie Pedroza for the proclamations. They were spectacularly done. She captured each of you and your individual qualities. As I was reading them, I was like, yes, that's that person, that's that person, that's that person. So beautifully done on the proclamation. On Commissioner Oscarson, I shared with him when I saw him last night that his work ethic is unparalleled. He called in to commission meetings from the parking lot of Disney World while his family and grandkids were in the Magic Kingdom. He called in from the Baja 400 in the desert
With the
in
saxophone.
Mexico. Right? It didn't matter what was happening in his life. He called in, he made this a priority, and his commitment was just stellar. And then also what I really appreciated, his demeanor was always so professional. At the same time, you do not dare disrespect this commission or its chair or its vice chair or any of its members or staff. He would come out and he would chastise counsel. He would chastise the individual that took an improper tone or was disrespectful, because this commission and its work and its process really meant so much to him, and he was not going to allow disrespect to any of it. And I always kind of felt like he was our champion that way, when he stood up for us. Commissioner Dufferin, from the day I started, like Commissioner Yin, on the commission, you've been here the whole time. And this holds true for both you and Commissioner Grunwald. Every person I have ever spoken to about my experience, and you two have been here 8 years of your life, you have dedicated to this process. I told everyone who would listen, I am so impressed with this body of people. They come together, the collegiality, the bipartisanship, the professionalism, the integrity, all of it in a world that sometimes seems like it's gone crazy. This was the place that I would go to say the rule of law matters, integrity matters, ethics matter. And so in large part, I have so much respect for you and you, and how you conducted yourself, and how you how you treated the litigants before us and the public, and the importance of ethics, and the importance of collegiality. And your service has just been tremendous. It's just been such an honor to serve with both of you. And I'm a big crybaby. Sorry. Anyway, so thank you. Thank you.
Don't make us cry too.
I was like, no one can go after that.
I know. I should have made her laugh.
I know. Remember when you do Teresa's proclamation to talk about that she
Just big crybaby.
she's a great. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Vice Chair Towler.
Teresa.
Yeah, I've been on, let's make sure I'm not muted. I've been on a couple of boards and a commission or two, and I've found, I think it's probably common for a lot of people, the amount of pride you have to be on a board or commission has a lot to do with the quality of the other board members or commissioners, and also the staff. And I can tell you, of all the ones I've been on, I have the most pride in being part of this, and that is, has mostly to do with fellow commissioners, and the three of you that are sadly departing. So much to thank you for raising the level of everything we do here at the Ethics Commission, along with just a great staff. I mean, the last I think it's been about 3 years I've been here. Just every month, I just am amazed and impressed about the level of work people put in, and the professionalism, and from I'll say three of you. I know Commissioner Oscarson isn't here today, but those three individuals that are now leaving just have always gone above and beyond in all ways, ethically, professionally, just showing up, putting the work in, going, putting and whatever it took to do a great job, and you will be missed.
Thank you, Commissioner Towler.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna say a few words here. I feel like we've got such a void with losing the three of you, because you all brought so much to the commission. And when I first came on the commission, I didn't know any of you. Well, I knew Teresa, I think, when we came on about the same time. And, you know, our first meeting, it was just, everything clicked. And, you know, we haven't always agreed in our decisions and stuff. I think one of my first hearings, Vice Chair Dufferin or Commissioner Dufferin, he disagreed with some of us, but that's okay. At the end of the day, go have dinner, whatever. And we just respect everybody's opinions. And it's okay to disagree, because if we all agreed, we don't need each other. And I just found that the counsel I would get from Commissioner Greenwald was so excellent, you know, and she was always had such sage advice to give people. Definitely, don't make me cry. And I really appreciated working with Commissioner Dufferin and Commissioner Oscarson. And Commissioner Greenwald was on the legislative subcommittee too, you know, and eventually we'll get our bill through. And then with Commissioner Dufferin and Oscarson on the personnel subcommittee, I think that it was excellent having them on there. We made some good decisions. We have an excellent executive director and an excellent commission counsel as well as a result of that. And I appreciated, the rest of you are all attorneys, all right? So I appreciated Commissioner Dufferin and Commissioner Oscarson, because they weren't attorneys. And, you know, had some people to pal around with that we spoke the same language. So, but I just, you know, it's gonna be a void. I mean, I felt like this commission really clicked. We've really stepped up our game, and we're really doing a great job and a great service to the state of Nevada. And I'm gonna miss you guys, but you guys are always my friends from this. I met them, so.
Thank you, Chair Wallen.
I don't know if Commissioner Olson or Moran, you want to say anything? You haven't really known these people, so it's okay if you don't want to say anything.
Yeah, I'll say something real quick. I just met you today, but you seem like an okay guy. But my first meeting, Commissioner Greenwald gave me some advice, and I bounced a couple of things off of you. And I appreciate that, because I'm coming in here, and at that meeting, I was the only person, not an attorney present, and which can be intimidating, but as a cop for many, many years, you know how to deal with it. You know, just ignore the attorneys. Too many of them to ignore. But your advice was heartfelt, and I appreciate it. It was short, to the point, and I do appreciate it. And I do know Mr. Oscarson a little bit, because I was up legislature lobbying, and so I met him up there, and he does have a great sense of humor, and he is a good person, I will say that.
He definitely is. He makes us all laugh. So.
I'm good, I'm just
Just do
listening.
me
Okay,
too.
that's it.
It's
All
just
right.
great.
Staff,
Yeah, exactly.
would staff like to say anything?
Yeah, I can, I'll start. I'll also echo Commissioner Lowry's thanks to Carrie for the work on the proclamations, because they were spectacular and you know, aligned to each person. I knew Commissioner Oscarson prior from my work in HHS, and so it was great to continue to work with him in a whole different capacity, different from, you know, a state agency in front of a legislative committee, asking for things to a commissioner. I appreciated his extra work. This commission, having been in agencies that are attached to commissions and have different commissions and committees, this commission is, I think, one of the hardest working. It's a heavy workload in terms of commissions across the state that I've been in. And so that Commissioner Oscarson and Commissioner Dufferin took the time to serve on the personnel and legislative committees. The extra work in those was helpful, and obviously Commissioner Oscarson's experience as a legislator was helpful as we tried to figure out what to do. This last session, my first experience with Commissioner Grunwald was a very rough grilling during the interview for executive director. I thought, oh, I've got one commissioner who started out, she really doesn't like me, I think. But I just came to learn, of course, that that's just Commissioner Grunwald's style of questioning, right? It's sharp, it's direct, like you can tell she knows exactly what she wants out of that question, which I appreciate from the legal perspective and then just as being a member of your staff, but then a familiarity. And so it was not surprising to learn that she knew my grandparents and you know, the old Reno Phil. And then there's a lot of work that the chair and vice chair do to help, especially a brand new executive director, not crash and burn. And so I'll appreciate, you know, the phone calls and advice from Commissioner Dufferin when he was the vice chair throughout that whole process. So it will be sad to see our three folks leave and exciting to see you folks enter and how that adjusts and refreshes the perspective of the commission as we go forward. So you'll definitely be missed.
And, yeah, definitely. Associate Counsel Bassett.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few things. I wanted to say to both Commissioner Grunwald and Commissioner Dufferin, when I was in the first period of time that I was hired at the commission, things were a little rocky at times, and there was some changes, and both of you really took the time and were really kind and super helpful to me, and it meant a lot to me that you both reached out and made that time a lot easier for me at a time when that could have been very difficult with a changeover in executive director in a period of time with no executive director, which for my position, which works for the executive director, could have been very difficult. That made that a much easier time, and both of you very specifically made that a lot easier time. I have also been on the receiving end of many, many difficult questions from both of you. Many times you did not agree with me, but I wouldn't expect you to. I thought both of you have been wonderful commissioners and very smart and very did just an excellent job on behalf of the state of Nevada for what you did. I think you have been some of the best, I think some of the best people I've worked with as a lawyer in my career, both like from a personal level and the way you've interacted with me, and then just from the level of sort of the work you've done with me, and I wouldn't say against me, but along with me. Although sometimes it did feel like against me, but but that's the way it should be. So I am personally going to really miss both of you, and I'm working with you, and I'm sorry I am not there in person this time, very much specifically, because I will very much miss both of you. But I hope our paths will have a chance to cross again in other formats. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Right, Investigator Terry.
I don't have anything to add, thank you.
Okay. All right. Administrative Executive Assistant Pedrosa.
Yes,
And you
I
did do a great job on these proclamations.
thank you for that. I do appreciate the thanks, but it really was my pleasure and my honor to do those for you guys. I just have so much support, like appreciated your support of not only me, but all of our staff over the years, and I will absolutely miss you guys in this commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you guys are too new, so I'm not gonna ask you this. Just because you got to have dinner with Commissioner Dufferin last night in Oscarson.
Wasn't enough for
Probably
her, I'm
does.
sure.
It's probably pissed that you don't comment. So with that being said, we're all gonna miss you, and yes. Oh, I should let you guys say something. Well, I'm skipping him.
Okay, I have to stand up because I have to project my voice. First, thank you to Carrie Pedrosa for always helping me with my technical difficulties and doing so with a smile. Thank you to Aaron Terry for using his superior investigative skills to find the facts. If you don't have the facts, you don't make good law. Thank you to Amanda for using her amazing analytical skills to help us form a well-reasoned decision in all of our cases. Thank you to Thorin for his willingness to take on the leadership role of vice chair. You will do a great job. Thank you to our executive director, Ross, for using his leadership skills to keep all of us going in a forward direction. And thank you for your organizational skills to delegate to your staff. Thank you to Brandy for joining our team at the Ethics Commission. She will give us fresh eyes and new insights. Thank you to Teresa for her guiding us with her trial experience and for her practical reasoning skills. Thank you to Brian for giving of his time for settlement conferences, personnel issues, and the legislature. You always apply an even-handed and balance to our decisions. Our fearless chair, Kim Wallen, thank you for all the time you spend to meet the needs of the commission. You always ask us for our opinions and you come prepared. Thank you to Elizabeth Bassett, who puts in a lot of time and effort. But the greatest thing about Elizabeth is her ability to analyze the facts and to put down on paper a step-by-step analysis. Thank you to Wendy for her ability to research any task assigned to her. And I have enjoyed my time on this commission with all of you. Thank you for this experience.
Commissioner Duffer. Has your coffee kicked in?
It probably has. So I, like Commissioner Grunwald, for the record, want to say I'm proud to have been appointed as a commissioner by two different Nevada governors, Governor Sandoval and Governor Sisolak. My first day as an ethics commissioner was my first day in retirement from the Nevada Gaming Control Board, where I served in many different roles, ending as the chief of administration. I tried to bring the integrity and gold standard reputation to the Nevada Commission on Ethics that I learned and emulated as a GCB employee. I feel I have succeeded in my role as a commissioner in the last 7 years. I think thinks that I was here for 8 years, it's been seven wonderful years in fulfilling the mission and the guiding principles of the Ethics Commission. I am honored to have worked with such great people, both employees of the commission, as well as fellow commissioners who care about the integrity of public service and care about doing the right thing, even though at times it may be extremely challenging and difficult. I believe the commission is in a position today to continue to carry out its mission as challenges lie ahead. I also believe this because the current makeup of the staff and the commission members are dedicated professionals and who deeply care about Nevada. Finally, I want to thank everybody for making my time on this commission a rewarding and cherished time of my life. I've appreciated being a small part of something very important. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been good time with you on the commission and serving with you guys. And I'm glad that I got to do that. So, thank you. All right, next item 7. Y'all cleared up our tears. Discussion and approval of a written opinion concerning ethics complaint case number 22-051C regarding Joseph Rodriguez, trustee, Washoe County School District, Lieutenant State Fire Marshal, State of Nevada. Chair Wallen and Vice Chair Towler served on the panel and are precluded by NRS 281A.2204 from participation in this matter. I will now turn this over to Commissioner Dufferin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, are there any disclosures or abstentions on this particular item?
Yes, Commissioner Dufferin.
Commissioner Yan.
I am a partner with the law firm of McDonald Crono, of which Mr. Rodriguez is a client. Therefore, pursuant to NRS 281A.065 subsections 4 and 5, I have a commitment in a private capacity to my law firm and the client based on the law firm's continuing business relationship with that client. Consequently, the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation could be materially affected in voting upon items relating to Mr. Rodriguez. To avoid conflicts of interest and any appearance of impropriety, including complying with the ethics law and judicial canons applicable to the commission, I am disclosing this relationship and will abstain from participation in this matter. I've consulted with I haven't. I've consulted with commission counsel, and she agrees my disclosure and abstention is required in this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Yen. Any other disclosures or abstentions on this item? Seeing none, this matter is to approve the opinion on reconsideration following the vote of the commission at the August 23rd, 2023 meeting. Before the commission is the written opinion that reflects the August 23rd motion to dismiss the counts related to NRS 281A.400 subsection 2 and keep the findings of the willful violations on NRS 281A.400 subsection 7 with the fine of $500 each. Any questions or concerns by any commissioners? Seeing none, I don't have any myself. I would be ready for it. Well, first of all, I want to thank Commission Counsel for crafting this and doing this in such a way that mirrors what we had discussed in our meeting and what we had agreed to. I appreciate the work that was done on this by our Commission Counsel. Having said that, and looks like no other discussion, I would be ready for a motion.
I move that we accept the opinion on reconsideration in its entirety as presented to the commission.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? I hear no opposition, so the item carries unanimously. It is approved unanimously, and I think that concludes that item. Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to you.
Thank you. All right, item 8, discussion and possible action on consolidated ethics complaint numbers 21-062C and 21-082C Lombardo to grant Commission Counsel and or the Attorneys General's conflict counsel the authority to take any legal steps necessary to respond to any legal action that results from the Commission's actions on cases involving this subject. Are there any disclosures or abstentions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Moran.
Member Moran, for the record, I'm making a disclosure in the case, specifically item number 8, which is the consolidated ethics complaint numbers 21-062C and 21-082C. I am an acquaintance of former Sheriff Lombardo, having met him on a few occasions through his service as the Sheriff of Clark County and my work in Clark County as an attorney and member of the Board of Regents and Gaming Control Board and other administrative boards and tribunals. I have known the Governor Lombardo in a professional or public capacity for a number of years, although none of my work directly involved him, either formerly as sheriff or presently as governor. I would categorize and characterize our current relationship as professional acquaintances rather than a personal friendship. Additionally, Governor Lombardo appointed me to sit as the commissioner on the Nevada Commission for Ethics with a term to start on September 1, 2023. Upon the unexpected resignation of Commissioner Damian Sheets, whom I was scheduled to replace upon the expiration of his term, my start date as commissioner was reset to July 1, 2023 to fulfill the remaining term caused by the resignation. Under NRS 281A.065, my relationship with Governor Lombardo is not within the definition of a commitment in a private capacity to the interest of another person. Consequently, the relationship does not require disclosure or abstention under the ethics laws pursuant to NRS 281A.420. Additionally, nothing in Judicial Canon 211 of the Code of Judicial Conduct requires a disclosure or abstention pursuant to the manner of my appointment. In fact, Nevada law favors the right of the public officer to perform the duties for which the public officer was appointed and to vote or otherwise act upon a matter. However, in my capacity as a commissioner, I serve as a quasi-judicial role and desire to alleviate any concerns of impartiality. Consequently, I am disclosing the extent of these relationships. Further, I have reviewed Judicial Canon 211 of the Code of Judicial Conduct, which lists the types of relationships and events that require disqualification, and have confirmed that the presented circumstances do not require disqualification. Moreover, I believe I will be fair and impartial in considering this matter and have no actual or perceived bias. I don't believe my acquaintanceship with Governor Lombardo or my appointment to the Commission on Ethics by Governor Lombardo would materially affect my independence of judgment or that of a reasonable person in my situation. Therefore, I will be participating and voting on this matter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other disclosures?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Olson?
Okay, I am making a disclosure in consolidated case 21-062C and 21-082C. I am an acquaintance of former Sheriff Lombardo, having met him while I worked at Metro PD and seeing him at a couple of events in past years. I have known Governor Lombardo in a professional capacity for a number of years, although my work directly involved him either formally as sheriff or presently as governor, I did not work with him as sheriff. Additionally, Governor Lombardo appointed me to sit on the commission on the Nevada Commission of Ethics, term starting in July of 2023. Under NRS 281A.065, my relationship with Governor Lombardo is not within the definition of a commitment in a private capacity to the interests of another person. Consequently, the relationship does not require disclosure or abstention under the ethics law pursuant to NRS 281A.420. Additionally, nothing in judicial canon 2.11 of the Code of Judicial Conduct requires disclosure or abstention pursuant to the manner of my appointment. In fact, Nevada law favors the right of a public officer to perform the duties for which the public officer was appointed and to vote or otherwise act upon the matter. However, in my capacity as commissioner, I serve in a quasi judicial role and desire to alleviate any concerns of impartiality. Consequently, I am disclosing to the extent of these relationships. Further, I have reviewed Judicial Canon 2.11 of the Code of Judicial Conduct, which lists the types of relationships and events required disqualification, have confirmed that the presented circumstances do not require disqualification. Moreover, I believe that I will be fair and impartial in considering this matter and have no actual or perceived bias. I don't believe my acquaintanceship with Governor Lombardo or my appointment to the Commission on the Ethics by Governor Lombardo would materially affect my independence of judgment or that of a responsible person in my situation. Therefore, I will be participating in voting on this matter.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I would like to call the item and ask Commission Counsel for her presentation.
Thank you, Chair. In this matter, as you know, Mr. Rodriguez was brought before the commission previously in a hearing.
Aren't we doing Lombardo?
Oh, sorry. On this one, I would ask that you grant permission to Commission Counsel to be able to defend the matters that are arising out of the two consolidated cases that were previously listed. In this matter, we would ask that you give direction to your Commission Counsel to be able to defend against matters including but not limited to the petition for judicial review, which has been filed in the First Judicial and Department 2 under Judge James Wilson, case number 23OC001091B. In that matter, we would ask that you also allow us to have a designated contact person through the chair and the vice chair to be able to discuss litigation matters. Anything serious of the nature that would be dispositive of the case, such as an appeal or settlement or dismissal, would be brought back to the full commission for consideration.
Questions for Commission Counsel? All right, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion and I'll just defer to council's iteration of the motion.
Or we could, you've got the wording, yeah.
Would you like me to propose a sample?
That'd be great.
If you want, or we've got this, I move to grant Commission Counsel and or the Attorney General's Office conflict counsel the authority to take any legal steps necessary to respond to any legal action that results from the Commission's actions on cases number 21-062 and 082, including but not limited to the petition for judicial review and defending the Commission decisions, and further move that the commission council shall bring back case dispositive decisions such as appeal, dismissal, or stipulated settlement agreements before the full commission. And we will move to delegate authority to the chair and vice chair to have commission consult regarding any legal issues or decisions pursuant to NRS 241.0357 and NAC 281A.155. That good? Okay, all right.
That's my motion.
Okay, that's good. Okay. All right, do we have a second to
I
that?
think so.
All right. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Right, next item, item 9. Discussion and possible action on ethics complaint number 22-051C, Rodriguez to grant commission counsel and or the Attorney General's Office legal counsel the authority to take any legal steps necessary to respond to any legal action that results from the commission's actions on cases involving this subject. The authority to take any, that's a repeat, action that results from the commission's actions on cases involving this subject. Are there any disclosures or abstentions?
Yes, Chair Wallen, I would just reiterate
No,
my
remember you
displeasure
have to
for
read
this
it.
one too, even though it's the
Yes,
same day.
Yes. I do. Yeah, that's what we make the commissioners at county commissions and city councils do.
Why are we having 2 items on the same? Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I am a partner with the law firm of McDonald Crono, at which Mr. Rodriguez is a client. Therefore, pursuant to NRS 281A.065 subsections 4 and 5, I have a commitment in a private capacity to my law firm and the client based on the law firm's continuing business relationship with that client. Consequently, the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation could be materially affected in voting upon items relating to Mr. Rodriguez. To avoid conflicts of interest and any appearance of impropriety, including complying with the ethics law and judicial canons applicable to the commission, I am disclosing this relationship and will abstain from participation in this matter. I have consulted with commission counsel and she agrees my disclosure and abstention is required in this matter.
Okay, thank you. All right, commission counsel, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. In this matter, before the commission is a final petition for judicial review and the First Judicial District Court is in the Department 10 under Kathy Sigerson. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. In the case number 23-01054, we're asking for permission to delegate the authority to commission counsel to defend the matter, including but not limited to that petition for judicial review with the case number recently listed. We are asking to also have a contact person through the chair and the vice chair to be able to discuss litigation strategies, anything of a major decision, including but not limited to dispositive actions such as settlement, dismissal, and appeal would be brought back before the full commission for a vote. And I would like the record to indicate that Commissioner Miranda has stepped out.
Take a slight recess. We can do that until Commissioner Moran can attend.
He actually indicated he won't be back for 20 minutes. He has to go to a city council meeting before which he has an item.
Okay.
Thank you. So that is the request of commission counsel, is to delegate authority for us to be able to defend the commission in its decision.
And the chair and vice chair too. Correct. All right. So I will entertain a motion for this. So I guess I'll read the motion.
Yeah.
And somebody can make it, right? I move to grant commission counsel and or the Attorney General's Office legal counsel the authority to take any legal steps necessary to respond to any legal action that results from the commission's actions on cases 22-051, including but not limited to the petition for judicial review and defending the commission decisions, and further move that the commission counsel shall bring back case dispositive decisions such as appeal, dismissal, or stipulated settlement agreements before the full commission. I move to delegate authority to the chair and or vice chair to have commission consult with before making legal decisions pursuant to NRS 241.0357 and NAC 281A.155. Right.
I so move.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right. Motion carries. We're getting there. Right, next item. Next item, item 10. Now for the fun stuff. Discussion, review, and possible action related to the following complaint case processes and stipulations. Jurisdictional determination process. Executive Director Armstrong, will you please make your presentation?
Thank you, Chair. This is Executive Director Armstrong for the record. And we have a couple items around just some practice changes, and rather than ambush you and send you new stuff that might be different than the way we've done it, I want to make sure to bring it to a meeting and discuss. Our plan at the November meeting will be to do something similar with some suggested changes, potentially to like the format of advisory opinions and those sorts of things. So just some process things. I don't know that like a formal vote to ratify is needed, but I want to bring them forward and have some discussion and see what the direction of the commission was in terms of the way we process things. So the first topic is jurisdictional determinations, and there are two recommended changes to the practice. So we'll talk about the first one. Currently, when we provide you with a jurisdictional recommendation, we'll tell you that there's insufficient evidence, so we should decline jurisdiction. And after talking to Liz and Brandy's been great because she's like, why do we do this? We go, that's how we've always done it, but we've got ideas on how to change it. So is that really we should probably be accepting jurisdiction over cases where there's enough evidence that they're a public officer and employee and that there's an ethics issue, but if there's insufficient so accepting jurisdiction, but then not proceeding. So the commission can do three things. Essentially, when it accepts jurisdiction, it can dismiss the case with or without a letter. It can open an investigation. And so our recommendation would be to lower that threshold, so you'd see more jurisdictional recommendations saying, this is a public officer or employee, their conduct is a question, we have jurisdiction over this person, but we're not going to proceed because there's not enough evidence of an ethics issue to move forward to an investigation. So we would anticipate you'd see more saying, yes, we have jurisdiction, but no, there's not enough evidence to proceed, because it's kind of lumped up in one thing right now, and it may make sense to split that out. So I'll ask if there's any questions about that change first.
So just to clarify that, if, and I'll use that example because it's active. If somebody that works within the legislature does something, there's a complaint. In the past, I've seen where we don't have jurisdiction of their actions within the legislature. So we would accept, or we would not even accept jurisdiction on that one, correct?
Yeah, the legislature is an interesting beast because of the Hardy decision from the Supreme Court. But we get, right now, if somebody were to, let's say, file a complaint against a health inspector, but there wasn't enough evidence that there's an ethics issue included with the complaint, we would just say, we don't have jurisdiction of this issue. But we do have jurisdiction over that person, and so the new practice would be, yes, we have jurisdiction because this is a public officer or employee, so there's sufficient evidence to determine that they're a public officer or employee, but there's insufficient evidence to open an investigation, so the complaint will just be dismissed. And yeah, and I'm hopeful too. We have a part of our administrative code requires us to notify the requester of the determination. And I think that will help provide clarity for them. Like, we do have jurisdiction over this person, but you haven't presented enough evidence for us to move forward. That may get some folks to gather more evidence and resubmit. And then we give them that notification.
So let me ask you this question. So oftentimes we get cases where it is a public officer or employee, but it's not an ethics issue. So we wouldn't accept jurisdiction, but they're a public officer or employee. We couldn't say we accept, but we're dismissing it because it is not a violation of the ethics law.
Yeah, so we would not have jurisdiction over something that's not
Okay.
like an ethics type accusation.
But would you dismiss it or not accept it?
We wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the most frequent one, the most frequent complaint we get that is clearly not an ethics issue is open meeting law allegations, right? And so we can say, we don't have jurisdiction over that, go talk to the AG's office. And so I would not anticipate this change increases our number of investigations. Like it's a real technical adjustment, but I think will better reflect, I think now when you take a look at our, like, our stats, year-end stats, it looks like, oh man, there's all these people that are filing wild complaints. Well, no, there's a lot of complaints about people unhappy about their government. They're just not related to ethics, but we say we don't have anything to do with it, so.
Yeah, I kind of like that because I know that we've had a few cases recently where we haven't accepted jurisdiction, but we've issued a letter.
Mhm.
And to me, it's like, shouldn't we accept jurisdiction? I mean,
Yeah.
it made no sense to me, so I personally think this is a good thing.
The second one is somewhat related because there are certain complaints. And just for my understanding, I don't have personal knowledge that this used to be the way it used to be, but my understanding is before the most recent change in the law, staff made the jurisdictional determination. The requester could appeal to the commission. And that so many people would appeal, they just went with, we'll send everyone to the commission. The law requires that we present to you factual basis for our recommendation. What we do now is even on cases where there's clearly, it's a private citizen or it's against a company or it's not, there's other big defects with the complaint. We do a full analysis just like it would be, like it's an actual case we're saying to go forward on. And so the suggested change would be to create a kind of like a one-pager summary recommendation sheet for those that say, we recommend no jurisdiction, this person's a private citizen, and we don't go through 6 or 8 different facts about them, and so that it reduces that staff time and coming up with a recommendation to dismiss. So, are there any questions about?
I think that's a good change.
Yeah, that's a great change.
And then the third process change, and this was what I was so glad Brandy's like, why do we do it in this order? Because it's different than any other group that I've seen, but we have a process where if we come to a stipulation, it goes to you first, and then we go back to the parties to get their signatures. And it sometimes creates quite a delay between your decision and the getting, hunting down all the signatures. So the recommended process is get the signatures of the parties, then submit to you. So your signatures, the day you approve, that stipulation is in effect. Just as in court or other administrative bodies, when we bring forward a stipulation, you can say, we don't like the stipulation, you need to change X, Y, and Z. In those cases, we would go back and gather all the signatures, but by getting the party signatures first before presenting to you, it'll cut down on some of that back end time.
Do you know how often we, as the commission, change stipulations or disagree?
I'm gonna defer to Liz, not often. And also I'll give Liz time to think, and just, what I have noticed is the decision point where the commission is more likely to deviate from a recommendation is at the review panel stage. And either, say, no, we think actually a deferral is appropriate, or no, we don't think deferral is appropriate, send this forward. We don't have a lot of, when we get to a stipulation part, I haven't seen a lot of the commission changing the terms of the stipulation, but I think it has happened a couple times. So I'll defer to Liz if she's got a better grasp of what that is.
I would probably say less than 50% of the time. And then most of that time, I mean, the vast majority of the time when the commission makes a change, the subject accepts it without any problem. So I don't think then it would be an issue of going back and getting another signature from them. I think the order of getting the signature, it just makes more sense for them to sign a stipulation they've agreed to, and then to bring it to you guys for your signature. And then if you change it, then okay, we'll go ahead and get their signature afterwards with their changes. But it's just sort of an awkward order of things that we don't have them sign something they've agreed to before we bring it to you guys, and then have to go back and try to get them to sign it oftentimes.
No, I agree. I think you need to get party signatures the minute that they agree to a settlement or stipulation. I'm just so curious as to if the commission did change quite a bit, how much time would that actually save on the back end? But it doesn't seem like it's that much of an impact that you guys think it would makes a difference.
No, I don't think it's rare enough. I also think there was a practice that Liz and I have kind of stopped doing when it came to deferral agreements in particular, where there would be lots of negotiation. We'd like, the review panel says there should be a deferral agreement. Here's the terms that we're recommending. Then we go to the subject and they want a bunch of different terms. And there was kind of, like, when I looked at the case backlog, when I first got, a bunch were this bickering over a sentence in a deferral agreement. Liz and I are much more of, the review panel said these terms, you will accept these terms or we're going to a hearing. Because I'm not gonna spend hours and hours arguing over stuff, so, but we didn't wanna like freak out the commission by bringing stuff that's already signed before you, in case there was a real desire to have, you know, blank.
To me, I think that they should sign it before we go and agree, before the commission agrees, because then you get into the, I changed my mind, I mean, that's just. So I think this is great, I really appreciate staff coming up with these more efficient ways of doing things, so I appreciate that very much.
And I appreciate your fresh eyes, Brandy.
Yeah, well, it's always good, it's always good, you know? So, yeah, you know, why don't we just make a motion to approve? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive director's presentation and changes to the jurisdictional determination process and the stipulation process.
I so move.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, item 11, overview of the administrative rulemaking processes and overview of the expected timeline for potential amendments to NAC 281A. Executive Director Armstrong, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Wall. This is Executive Director Armstrong. For the record, in your packet under agenda item 11, you have the administrative rulemaking manual, and there's also a page where it has some dates for our potential timeframes. So we have the ability to create administrative regulations. We are limited in that we can only create those regulations that our statute permits us to create. And so for the commission, that is essentially basically commission procedure on a number of items, right? We can't adopt any administrative regulations that create new ethics requirements or those types of things, but we can adjust our procedure. I think we've held off on making changes. Let me back up a little bit. The administrative rulemaking process only allows you to make rules between legislative sessions. There's a particular time frame you're not allowed to actually adopt regulations. We are currently in a green light zone for adopting regulations. I think the commission has not gone through this, maybe the last couple interim, because we're hoping for a legislative change that didn't occur. But that has not occurred enough times. I think it makes sense to take a look at our regulations. We also are required every 10 years to take a look at our regulations, no matter what. And so the process is, and we will be going through the permanent rulemaking process, which is on the top of that page that has the flow charts. It's on page 6 of the manual if you're looking at the full manual. But the process starts with a workshop where you solicit feedback and get ideas and then draft the changes to your administrative regulations. That requires a 14-day notice prior to your workshop, has to follow the open meeting law. We would do it in a meeting, so that would be easy for us. And then when you have your regulations pretty much drafted or your changes, you submit them to the Legislative Counsel Bureau. Their lawyers will write them and then return them to you and charge you for their work. And then when you get that back from the Legislative Counsel Bureau, you then have a public meeting. That public meeting has some notice requirements as well. And that public hearing is where you would officially adopt the new, well, you would adopt the new regulations in terms of these are what you're going to submit for finalized approval. If there are changes at the public, depending on how drastic the changes might be during that public hearing, you might have to redo the process of going back to the LCB. If that LCB draft is pretty solid and you don't change much at the public hearing, then it gets submitted and the Legislative Commission then has a final opportunity to review and approve the regulations. And so once they do that, we follow up with the Secretary of State and they become our new administrative regulations. So the time frame that I think for the commission is we have the workshop at our November meeting. and depending on how long the Legislative Council Bureau takes, we would have a public hearing in January or March. And then the Legislative Commission, they don't have a set schedule, but by April or May, around that time frame, they would be able to approve our changes to the regulations. So that's the basic process. We're limited. We can only make changes to our regulations that deal with essentially commission procedure. And it's gonna be about a 6-month process to jump through each of the hoops that we need to jump through. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Dufferin.
Madam Chair, thank you. So have you had an opportunity to kind of look at what's on your table with, since we haven't done this in many, many years? Is this gonna be like a pretty big project for the staff to go through all these, or do you kind of have already a wish list that you want to go through? Because based on some of the things that we've talked about in the past, where we wanted to maybe codify some of these changes in our NAC from our proposed legislation that didn't get passed. So have you had a chance to do that?
Yeah, so when Governor Lombardo was elected, he asked everybody to take a look at their regulations and to make them less burdensome on, small businesses and the general public. Our regulations don't affect small businesses and the general public, and so I applied for and received an exemption from that executive order that said we don't need to go through, because it was like repeal at least 10 regulations. But through that process, I was able to go through and go, there's really not 10 that we would necessarily repeal. But there are some around the duties of chair and vice chair we may be able to try to clarify that we were gonna maybe try to do in law. Ironically, if our bill had passed, there was probably about 5 or 6 regulations we could have repealed because they would have then been in the law. And so I don't currently have a wish list, but there would be one. We would have that prepared for that workshop in November to say, here's the procedural items that we can adjust for both advisory and complaint processes. There's some, I'll take a look at, there's some things that we do, I gotta see if they're in the NRS or the NEC around advisory opinions that are still left over from when advisory opinions all had a hearing. That we can get rid, like, we don't need to do this particular notice to the person that an email has been sent to the commissioners to vote, because it's like an old notice of hearing that we don't need to do anymore. So as long as that's in the NAC, that's something that we could eliminate.
Would it be helpful to you, and this will be up to the chair and the vice chair and the commission as a whole, would it be helpful to you to have a subcommittee, or is that not necessary to go through all of these?
I think a subcommittee would slow you down in the process, because we have to essentially get it, submitted before July 2nd, otherwise
Understood.
it's a challenge. And I can work with Brandy. The open meeting items are challenging, but we can certainly work to see if there's a way to solicit feedback prior to that workshop from members, as long as you're not, so that
Of ideas.
of ideas
things.
and priorities for that particular adjustment. But I think the key thing is when you're taking a look at it, we're just very limited in terms of what we can do by regulation, by what we're allowed to regulate by statute. So like I said, we can't create any ethics rules for people. We can't do a lot of that, and when I go train, I tell people all the ethics rules are in the NRS. And our administrative code really is like a procedure manual for how we process cases. So if there are particular hiccups in the process, you think, gosh, can we fix that through a reg change? That would be helpful feedback for me, so I can take a look and see which one it would be.
I was thinking, it just came to me. Could we put in our NAC, okay, if somebody has a complaint filed against them and they're uncooperative, and we're running down to the deadline to proceed. Can we put something in there that if we have an uncooperative complainant, that grants an automatic extension of time?
I don't think so, because all of our time frames are in statute.
Okay.
And so you can't adopt a regulation that overrides a statutory right.
I was just thinking out of the box, just because that's been our big problem with, a lot of our timeframes and stuff, so.
Yeah.
But I think there's probably some things we can do in there to, that we wanted to do in statute, but couldn't, possibly.
Yeah.
So you guys are looking at it that way to
Yeah, and what we'll provide really is at that workshop, we'll be able to provide, here's our code. Here's like the 6 to 10 provisions we think should be tweaked.
Okay.
And then have that full discussion. That workshop is really about having a good discussion and going through what we think those changes should be. And sometimes agencies will have all their proposals ready to go for that workshop. And I in the past have gone more like, here's the sections we're taking a look at. The workshop should be where you have that discussion point, so. And we'll have to, even though it's funny because of what our agency does, we have to complete a small business impact study. We've got to do a couple of other things to comply with the Administrative Procedure Act.
What are your options if somebody, this chair said, is uncooperative, digging in their heels and not gonna talk to you, whatever?
So, I mean, sometimes it happens where, because when we send somebody else of investigation, they have 30 days to respond if they don't waive the timeframes. And we've had cases where there's no response. And so we just go to panel with the evidence that we have and proceed. There is a provision that says if you interfere with the ethics investigation, that can be a separate ethics violation. And the commission can begin a case against that person for interfering with the investigation. And there's, depending on the level of uncooperativeness and interference, there could probably be a referral to law enforcement as well for interference with a public proceeding or something like that. So, and I think that fine can be up to $5,000 if they interfere.
Yeah, I think for our workshop, you can kind of have some ideas and, and I think that would be helpful, kind of a starting point. Rather than going in cold and somewhere like going, I don't know.
Yeah, have that as part of
What do you
the
want to do?
materials. But I remember when the executive order came out, you gotta get rid of 10 regulations. I looked through and I was like, we don't have a lot of like extra regulations, but there is some old terminology from the way we've done things in the past that could be cleaned up and I'll tap into Liz too, because I think where we identify good spots for process change is where opposing counsel is just confused about what to do at a particular point in the case. Like Liz spends a lot of her time, investigating and going after folks, but she also spends a lot of time teaching their attorneys how the Ethics Commission works. And so there may be some clarifying points we can put in there to point them to the NAC so that it's a little bit easier for them.
Good.
I have a question.
Yes.
It may be there and I just couldn't find it. A while back, I was looking everywhere to see what the process would be if we ever had a tie vote. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it in statute. I couldn't find it in the regs. I don't know if that's something that is in the regs and I missed it, or if it's something that should be in the regs in terms of procedure, because we are a body of 8. I mean, the potential exists. And I was just kind of curious, what does that look like and what do we do if we have a tie vote?
Yeah, there is a provision, and I don't know off the top of my head if it's in our NRS or our NAC, for if you have a review panel and one person becomes absent and there's a tie, then the chair appoints a third person to also take a look at the case and break the tie. But I don't think we have that for like a general vote. I think Robert's Rules of Order would say if you don't get a majority, it's dead. You can't act. So,
Okay.
but that's something we can definitely look at and say what happens if there's
Or say that we defer to Robert's rules,
right.
that's our process, or I don't know.
When I was chair of the taxi authority, as a rule and by direction of the AG, they told me not to vote because I should be a tiebreaker. So I don't know if that was,
Interesting.
yeah.
We've always been,
Yeah.
always voting since I've been on.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you think about the difference between like votes on advisory opinions, votes on general matters, and then because our system is set up so you should have odd numbers, you should have 3 at the review panel and 5 at the main hearing.
I
That
see.
you
I
don't
see.
get too many ties on actual cases, but you could definitely have 5 you could have 5 at a meeting, or 5 for a decision on a adjudicatory hearing, and one person is absent or one person has to recuse because they have a conflict of interest, and you're down to 4, and
Well, yeah.
you could end up with 2-2.
But wouldn't you be able to go and, well, no, because the chair can't appoint somebody because the other 3 were on the review.
Right, so we can take a look at that, like what do other agencies do in tie situations?
Yeah.
We haven't hit that
Yeah.
particular wall.
My experience with the gaming commission, as when I sat as the executive secretary and had to keep track of all the voting, was that whenever there was a tie, it was no action.
Mhm.
And then would get referred back to staff. So I don't know where that came from. That was just what we did historically.
And I think a lot of times, in the absence of any particular direction, they come up with a plan like that, or
Yes.
like what we did, taxi authority. It's not a good answer.
No.
But
It's
to
nice
commi-
in cities
yeah.
because the mayor.
To Commissioner Lowry's point, though, that if that fits in our knack, that's probably a great idea to put that in there. So so people know what to do.
Any other questions? That's good. You just like having lots on your plate.
Well, it's funny because the
overdue.
regulations, like you get this little window and you gotta get it all done in that window before.
And it's so overdue. I mean, we talked about this after the 19 session.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's overdue, so thank you. This is not an action item, it was just a informational item, so I'm not going to entertain a motion for this. Next item, item 12, report by executive director on agency status and operations and possible direction thereon. Items to be discussed include without limitation, education and outreach, quarterly case log update, budget update, staffing and recruitment, upcoming meetings. Executive Director Armstrong, please proceed.
Thank you. This is Executive Director Armstrong. Again, I'll start with education and outreach. Our online system is accessible to folks. We'll have our first, I need to notify our 2 folks on deferral agreements that they need to go in and complete that training. We continue to make tweaks, and we got slammed with a bunch of jurisdictional items. You guys have all seen the tail end of that, so but it's accessible to folks. They can access it. And so recently, I should put the ASD team, the Administrative Services Division team, who helps us with administrative services. They had their staff all get usernames and get trained through that process. And they're like, is there an easier way when we get new people? I was like, no, I actually have to go in and assign people. But so that is up and running, and when we have the new person, that it'll really accelerate in terms of the ability to use it and make changes to it. So some recent training, the Public Relations Society of America, the Sierra Nevada chapter, had me present during their Public Relations Ethics Month was last month, and so they had me present during their meeting. We also trained Northern Nevada PERS. We had done Southern Nevada PERS about 6 months ago, and so it's time to get the North done. They're across the street, so it was a tough journey. Mineral County, I just went last week and trained Mineral County. We had boards and commissions training hosted by the AG's office yesterday that I presented at, and will be recorded and available on the AG's website in the future. So that will be another opportunity to send people. It's more, I spent more time on disclosure and abstention than I normally do, like if I'm at an agency, because that's what boards and commissions really want to know about. But it was sort of a weird format without the ability to really get questions asked, and that was a little bit odd. And then tomorrow, I'll be training the International Code Compliance Organization down here. They're essentially building and other types of inspectors. Their association has a monthly lunch, and so they try to bring in the ethics folks once a year, which that's an interesting, I think, vulnerable spot in government agencies where there's a high chance that the person being inspected can try to lure the government official into breaking the ethics law through gifts or other means. It's like I think that's kind of a sensitive touch point. Anybody who's an inspector, they're put in this situation a lot of times to have to refuse gifts. And
This is a dumb question, but I'm gonna ask it.
yeah,
Like, for example, with the International Code Compliance Organization, So I'm assuming some of those are non-public employees.
Yeah.
So do you get non-public employees to come to your training?
Yeah, so this is their monthly lunch, so the non-public employees will be there for the food. And they'll have to deal with me giving my presentation in.
But that's good for them to learn how to report though.
It is, because there's a lot of agencies that use third-party inspectors and they can be ethical, even though they're not under our law, they can be ethical as they go do their job. So in this one, I start with a video from a Mexico City earthquake where there were like 300 people killed. And what they found afterwards, a root cause of all those people getting killed is that all the building inspectors were bribed to sign off on the buildings, right? They had appropriate codes that would have not collapsed in the earthquake, but everybody took bribes and so the buildings collapsed.
Just like
So,
in Turkey.
yeah, so it's, so that's interesting, because the Public Relations Society one, there was maybe 3 or 4 people that were government folks, and the rest of the people on the Zoom were private.
But it's still good because even though it may not specifically be applicable to them, it could be, and it makes the public aware, because they're the public, makes them aware of what we do and who we are, and they definitely benefit from that training as well, I think.
Yeah, it's good content even though, and I've really tried to craft those presentations, so it's not just like reading through statutes, right? It's real practical, way you want to do things. We also provided outreach at the Nevada Civil Attorneys Conference in September. I missed last year, so Liz presented last year. So this is the first time I've gone in this role in person, and there's a great opportunity for additional outreach. So we left cards on the tables for folks to sign up for training and had our buttons and pins and stickers. And so I'll be approaching that conference a little bit differently next year with an eye towards that outreach. I don't know if we'll have like a table or something, but, and we'll probably present, they said they'd like to have an ethics presentation every other year. And then there's an emergency management conference. I noticed, I think it popped up on LinkedIn or something. And so you have to submit an application to be a speaker at the conference. And so I submitted an application to be a speaker at that conference. I don't know when they'll let us know, but that'll be like February next year for emergency management folks. To let them know that even though it's an emergency, the ethics law still applies, so you want to have that as part of your response plan, is how you comply with the ethics law. We are working on the manual with the arrival of Brandy, and so we have a pretty good design picked out and working towards having issue-specific chapters, so there's not just one gigantic book that's the manual. You can go in and we can refresh portions as we get new cases, and so that format is set now. It will just be updating that content, which will be.
So like online, you could click on, okay, here's the index disclosures.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah,
Really?
and then some different, and then some different chapters that are issue specific, like here's one that, like, if you're running a campaign, here's everything you need to know about the intersection of the ethics, because people, and Brandy pointed this out, and it's true, people aren't like, I just want to go read a book about all the ethics rules. They've got a specific question, and they may not know, like, oh, I want to know about 400 subsection 3. They've got a particular fact issue they're trying to figure out, and so if you tailor it towards the facts that they're facing, you can get them the law education easier that way.
Like having separate social media accounts from your work and campaign.
And then, so that's education and outreach. Budget, we are, the budget implementation key things for this fiscal year is our public information officer, which I'll talk about in a second, computer replacement, and then it's our base budget year, so we want to try to make sure we're spending the money that we need to spend to operate, because it'll set the foundation for the next session. In terms of staffing and recruitment, we continue to onboard Wendy, and now we have a commission council, and so we are working on that onboarding. In terms of team development, there's always the phases of forming and then storming and then norming is what they say. And so we're definitely in the storming phase of that, where like things seem a little bit chaotic and wonky for us day to day, but we're figuring out how each other work, and we'll have some meetings coming up. Or we have a regular monthly staff meeting where we'll talk about, make sure we're all on the same page, but we're definitely in that storming phase and figuring out how we all work and how we want to work together in the future. So that's exciting, even though if it's a little bit wild and crazy sometimes. And then our outreach and education specialist. pester and pester and pester. Luckily, yesterday's training was at the Grant Sawyer building, which is where Durham is for another week or two at the Department of Human Resources Management until they move to the new state campus by the airport. And so I went down and talked to the person, and as they reviewed our materials, she said, you've asked for a PIO 1, but there's this other position that was not even on my radar, that's an education and information specialist. And she said, actually, this is probably the position you want. Now that you have classified, let's get the classified position. I said, oh, this is actually exactly what we want. So that was approved. Budget put it into Advantage yesterday, and so I believe we can start the recruitment next week. So when I get back, we'll be able to start that
Squeaky.
process, but it was just advantageous to be in the building where that could happen yesterday. Frustrating, the process was very frustrating in terms of requesting it unclassified, it became classified, nobody knew how to start the position in the system. But we got through it and we'll do the recruitment, so that'll be exciting.
Better late than never.
Yes. Upcoming meetings, we have the November 8th meeting in Tonopah. January 17th will be in Reno. We anticipate a motion hearing in one case and a motion and adjudicatory hearing in another case. I think that Sheevy case will look similar to the Lombardo hearing where the facts will we won't have a lot of witnesses or anything because the facts are basically agreed on. It's a legal fight. I believe that's how that will go based on the conversations we've had. And then there'll be an adjudicatory hearing currently scheduled for March down here in Las Vegas. The last thing for the executive director's report is the case log, which you all have, and for Commissioner Olson, and just as a reminder to new commissioners, you have a unredacted version as commissioners because a lot of the information is confidential. So if you have a question, don't ask by name, but you can certainly ask by case number and I can assist you with that at that point. And if you look at the different documents, there's one on the upper left that says current case log. That's the part of the report that has all of our currently open cases. And then there's one on the upper left that says fiscal year 24 case log. That's all cases from this current fiscal year. You can see that all cases, with the exception of Rodriguez, which we just completed, had finished our process from fiscal year 2022, which is, essentially from 2 years ago. So Rodriguez is now complete. And I can say that because it's one of the public ones. We have a few pending cases from fiscal year 2023, and then we're starting with fiscal year 2024. This case log is the status as of 10/1. So as you know, at the top there's a bunch that were in the pending jurisdictional termination phase that are now cleared. Out of all of those at that top, only 2 we're proceeding to investigation on. So it looks like there's, oh my gosh, a lot of cases, but a lot of those were cases we're not going forward on. And we maintain a manageable list of investigatory cases as well as advisory opinions. So that's where we are in terms of the case log. I have no concerns about being able to handle the current case load. Any questions?
Questions? I just want to applaud staff. I mean, before our current executive director was here, we would look at this case log and we'd have cases from 3-4 years back. I mean, it was just a lot. And kudos to the whole team for getting caught up, plus doing other stuff on top of it. And I really appreciate it. And I think that you've implemented some things to streamline things, which is a good thing. I mean, to be more efficient and stuff. So I just want to say thank you to staff for all of your super hard work on keeping us caught up, and because you're doing a better service to the public and to the public officers to not have those things hanging out there.
Yeah, and since it is my last item on my report, it's the staff has been incredible through all the changes, and everybody's been willing to step up and do what they need to do to get the job done. So it's been nice. It's been helpful to have the team working all together.
Yes, I really appreciate it, all of them stuff. So you've got a good team there. So thank you. All right. Next item, Commissioner comments. Oh, no, I need to ask for a motion. Is there a motion to approve the executive director's report as presented? All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next item, commissioner comments on matters including without limitation, identification of future agenda items, upcoming meeting dates and meeting procedures. No action will be taken under this agenda item. Are there any comments from my fellow commissioners? But yeah, like I said, I always like to thank our executive assistant Pedroza for putting together the meetings and all of her hard work. I know it's a big job. And again, thank you so much for those great proclamations for the staff. It is, okay. And Associate Counsel Bassett, thank you for all of your hard work that you do. You know, we really appreciate it. And the executive director knows I always appreciate what he does. Our senior legal researcher for jumping in there and helping everybody out. So I appreciate it. And our investigator for all of his hard work and effort that he does. So thank you. And Commission Counsel Jensen, good job today for your first meeting, you know, you did it, so. So thank you very much, and we're all looking forward to working with you and having you on our team, so thank you very much. You're welcome. Right, next item, item 14, public comment. Executive Director Armstrong, have we received any public comments since we started this meeting?
I just checked, we received one public records request, but no public comment during the meeting. And there is nobody on Zoom from the public, and there's nobody here at our location.
We have one member of the public on Zoom, but they have not indicated they would like to make public comment
Oh,
at this time.
Okay,
And there's no one here physically for public comment.
okay, all right. That, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, signing off, huh? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Gonna be this.